Being a Terraria veteran with nearly 2,000 hours in the game, I'm sometimes fairly certain in saying that I know everything there is to know about this 2D masterpiece. That is where I'm always mistaken and put back into my place, as things such as these icebergs appear and slap me back into the cosmos with knowledge. Like seriously, what is the locked chest opening animation? The old skeleton sprite? Or god forbid, all paintings combine? Anyways, this iceberg is separated into 5 different categories, those categories being facts, theories and headcanon, disproven / not canon, fan-made and opinions, and Terraria canon lore. These are spread throughout 10 different layers, with each one getting more and more obscure the deeper we go into the iceberg. So boyos, strap into your seats, as this is the complete Terraria Iceberg. Before we start, this is made by Firewater Gamer 751 and the rest of the Terraria Reddit community. Alright, we're on space, and this is essentially what every Terraria player and outsider has heard of many a times. First we have Terraria developers. So this just refers to the Terraria developers such as Redigit, Aaron, Leisure, Chrono, Senix, all those people. Nothing really too interesting here. The tutorial world. This actually may be unknown to some people, but this is a world made to give players a tutorial to understand the game better and is only available within the old generation versions of Terraria. Terraria forums. This is just a community forum for Terraria that you can easily find online. PewDiePie Terraria playthrough. PewDiePie has and had a Terraria series, though most of it is based on live streams, and he ended this on 6 episodes from what I believe, and along with this he did manage to do a bunch of other live streams that were only members only, so you can only access it if you are a part of his YouTube members list. World and player difficulty. So every character and world can be customized to be easier or more challenging. Journey mode players and worlds can only be used together and is the closest to creative mode there is within Terraria, with item duplication and time and enemy control. Classic characters are the normal experience, and medium core characters drop all of their inventory on death. Hardcore characters die permanently. Classic, expert, and master mode are the world difficulties, and essentially just make enemies harder, bosses harder. They give better loot and tools in exchange. Terraria official lore. So Terraria has its own official lore from the developers, which describes the known backstory before you enter the world, and that stuff gets deep, boys. I remember I did research on this some time ago when I was doing a different iceberg video that wasn't released, and this lore just gets absolutely hectic. Like, it's crazy the stuff that happens in the Terraria worlds. The evil biome. Most worlds have one evil biome, corruption or crimson. You are given the option between either or for it to be random during world generation. These biomes give several important items to help progress, and each have major stories in their lore. References to other media. So Terraria has numerous different items that reference other games, some more obvious than others. Games like Minecraft, World of Warcraft, Dungeon Defenders 2, Worms 3, Pixel Piracy, Edge of Space, and even One Drop, a yo-yo manufacturer, are referenced in the game today. Some of these companies and games also collaborate with or reference Terraria. T-Mod-Loader. This is the main modding platform for Terraria. Popular mods include Calamity, Thorium, and all of Fargo's mods. Random generation. Terraria worlds are randomly generated. Yes. Time. Terraria has a day and night cycle similarly to Minecraft. Every day is 24 minutes, with the daytime being more calm, while nighttime is when the most monsters show up. Most bosses can only be spawned during the night as well. Major versions. Terraria has 5 major versions: 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and 1.4. Music. One of Terraria's most popular features is its music. Most songs are 1 to 3 minutes and cycle when the song finishes. The songs play in specific environments and times. They're often known for being rather retro-like. The most popular song in Terraria is the overworld day theme. Enemies and bosses. Terraria has countless enemies and bosses. These come from certain biomes and at certain times and stages of the game's progress. Bosses are spawned with a crafted item, though many can come randomly as you progress. Game progress. Terraria has a system of progress which gives better weapons and armor in exchange of making enemies more difficult. Bosses and biomes account for almost all of the progress as you play. We are now on the tip of the mountain, which is what most Terraria players and outsiders know, but we're getting a little bit deeper. Terraria Otherworld. So Terraria Otherworld was seen as a sequel to Terraria, but in a different style and experience. Not much is known about this game since the info between betas and cancellation was slim. This is supposed to be like Terraria 2, so if you ever see any Terraria 2 memes online, this is what Terraria 2 is supposed to be. Old gen / 1.2 only content. So content has been featured in older generations of consoles like old mobile, which had its own content like bosses, weapons, and enemies. Anything considered as old gen only content has been removed on most consoles. This will be further elaborated on later within the iceberg. Secret / drunk world seeds. Specific seeds that would make worlds different from normal on purpose. There are several seeds like this, such as For the Worthy and the Drunk World seed. Terraria is 2D Minecraft. A opinion from Minecrafters assumed to have come from when Terraria became more popular. author. This term has become more of a joke between both communities at this point, but yeah, I think you could also remember you and your friends like discussing Terraria, and then you always had that one friend who's like, Terraria is just 2D Minecraft, bro, it's just a ripoff. So yeah, roar 0.wave. The sound used when most bosses are summoned. Dungeon Guardian, an enemy that resides in the dungeon pre-Skeletron, has thousands of health and defense alongside an insta-kill when they hit the player, regardless of the defense. Cthulhu, a fictional cosmic entity made by H.P. Lovecraft to be a evil god, and is a part of modern Lovecraftian horror. The reason this is on here is because many of the bosses feature the name of Cthulhu, and there was also a very famous picture that came out where there was Cthulhu in the ocean, and it's also speculated that Moonlord is the super buff version of Cthulhu. World barrier. Every Terraria world has a barrier on all sides of the map. Events. Events are specific things that would happen either randomly or if a specific requirement was met, such as the Goblin Invasion, the Martian Madness event, and so on. We are now on the jungle surface, and this is a place that many Terraria players know about, but outsiders usually do not go this far. The guide is the Wall of Flesh. The guide is required to be killed by throwing a guide voodoo doll into the lava, which implies that the guide and the Wall of Flesh are related, or maybe one of the same. Urimir, massive ex-Terraria YouTuber, a Terraria myth who completed several major challenges in the Terraria community. Green Cap. The green cap is a hat that gives 2 defense, but can only be found when a guy named Andrew dies. This refers to the main developer, Andrew or Redigit. Minecraft and Terraria. Terraria and Minecraft have a positive relationship, with both seemingly inspiring the other, and both have splash/title messages recommending the other game. Ivy, a novelty instrument obtained from the death of a steampunker named Whitney. This is a reference to Senix, whose real name is Whitney and is the husband of Redigit. The witch doctor is a lizard. The green skin on the tail of the witch doctor signifies it is a lizard. The witch doctor's quote of "I wanted to see how your kind celebrated" also signifies this during parties. Eye of Cthulhu on box art. On a designed box art, the Eye of Cthulhu is spawned during the day. Other box arts also show the twins in daylight. Red potion. A potion now found without cheating in the drunk world and for the worthy, though it was unobtainable for a while. In all non for the worthy seeds, it would inflict 11 debuffs for at least 1 hour. In for the worthy worlds, the potion would pick 3 of 18 buffs and randomly give it for 30 minutes. Empress of Light Nose. Her nose is often interpreted as the mouth in her sprite. Queen Bee, immediate spawning. Rarely in other worlds, lava could spawn a queen bee as soon as the world is generated by breaking the larva. Human quack. Every quack from a duck has a 1 in 300 chance to make a human-made quack sound. It comes from a royalty-free site and was added intentionally. Companion cube. Not only is this rare to obtain since it is sold by the traveling merchant for 5 platinum coins, but it also has special attributes as it deals damage to the player in dark areas and has sound effects when thrown into lava. Tutorial world secrets. The tutorial world has several secrets that the player can find, like a massive gold vein, a 4-block thick obsidian layer above lava in the underworld, and platform made of gold that holds several pieces of furniture. Golden shower cheese. The golden shower shoots ichor at rapid speeds and can pierce, resulting in major damage to large amounts of enemies like the destroyer and events. Daedalus stormbow cheese. The Daedalus stormbow fires arrows rapidly from the sky, doing decent damage, and this works greatly with holy arrows, which shoot 2 stars from above, dealing significant damage to larger or spread out enemies, and this is also very good for mechanical bosses and cramped events, especially good for fighting the destroyer. Bone key. Dropped after defeating a dungeon guardian, summons a baby skeleton head to follow you, considered as the hardest pet to obtain. Grapple cancel. A method which is to jump when grappling to a platform, which give good speed and airtime depending on your angles. Luck. A secret stat that determines what happens in game. The stat can be changed based on what the player does. Terrorblade recipe change. The Terrorblade now includes an extra broken hero sword on desktop. Duplication glitches. Terraria has had several glitches that can easily allow you to duplicate any item within game. Daylight Empress of Light. All of her attacks turn bright yellow and gain a massive damage increase during the daylight. Pre 1.4 flails. Although flails are 1.4 weapons, some weapons became flails but existed before the term flail existed. Yeah, tongue twister. The earliest items that have become flails are the Ball of Hurt, Blue Moon, and Sun Fury, being originally implemented in 1.0.6. Essentially, pre 1.4, flails were all melee weapons that only shot out and they came back to you without spinning around the player. Sunglasses Sun. When sunglasses are equipped by the player, the sun reverts back to the old 1.2 texture of the sun with sunglasses on it. And along with this, leaving the world would hold this effect on the menu screens. Green Jungle. The background of the jungle is green instead of the mostly blue used everywhere except for space, which uses black. This is odd due to the jungle not having green green looking skies. The opinion of the guy who made this iceberg thinks that this was done to distinguish the jungle to normal forest skies, so the transition and difference between the two was noticeable. Game trailer. Relogic released the trailer for Terraria in early release, which brought some of the earliest traffic and players to the game. Okay, we are now in the underground jungles. This is a section where entries start to get a little bit more obscure, and some outside research is necessary to find out what we're talking about here. Starting off, we got the first fractal. This is an unobtainable weapon released in 1.4.0.1, and it is an endgame sword that looks and acts largely like it is obtainable. Essentially, it is the original form of the Zenith and can easily be obtained through mod menus. Minecraft is 3D Terraria. Terraria is older than Minecraft in release, making it totally possible that Minecraft is 3D Terraria. The groom and bride are the angler's parents. So Redigit had confirmed in the past that the bride and the groom zombies are married, with the angler as their son. Pre 1.3 developer items. Developer items were originally introduced in 1.2, but were unobtainable. In 1.2.0.2, we saw the removal of the effect of non-developers dying while equipping the armor. Finally, 1.3 saw the obtainable introduction of developer items through the treasure bag. All Terraria worlds are connected. This is a theory that the creator of the iceberg just made up, and essentially it just states that the oceans at the end of each world connects to every other generated world, and this could explain how there is no curvature on the Terraria map. Overpowered Zapinator. The Zapinator was an item that dropped from Plantera, and it used to use magic to shoot an electric-like beam. The Zapinator was originally used to insta-kill enemies for developers, but remained in-game for a small amount of time, which made it the most overpowered weapon in the game at the time. Colored variants were released in 1.4, but were still rather powerful due to them having several random buffs that could stack. Steam trading cards. Terraria has its own trading card on Steam, alongside badges, emoticons, and profile backgrounds, with a booster pack which can give 3 cards when open. The Torch God. The Torch God is an event that is triggered by placing 100 torches next to each other in the underground. The torches will start to fly off where they are placed towards the player, which requires dodging the projectiles. If you live and all the torches have been used, you will be given the Torch God's favor, an item that gives the player the option to have their torches match the biome they are in. Okram. Okram was a 1.2 exclusive boss fight, and the fight was made more as a final boss for its time. It required a suspicious looking skull to spawn, it required mechanical eyes and a skull, adamantite or titanium bars, and souls of flight and dark. It would summon servants of Okram, lasers, demon scythes, and the boss would rush the player. The boss is very difficult to fight, but gives overpowered items when defeated, including several armor sets and souls of blight. Fun fact, Okram is macro backwards, the name of its creator, macro. Hoik. A hoik are teeth-shaped slope blocks that can send entities far distances fast, which has often been used to see things like inside the jungle temple before killing Plantera. That's actually something I didn't even know. Terrarian legendary prefix. Yo-yos cannot have a change in the speed, which is why yo-yos cannot get legendary, but the Terrarian acts as an exclusion since the 1.4 release. Angler immortality. Unlike every other NPC, the angler leaves when his health is brought down to 0 instead of being slain, with the fact that he is a child often being said to have a role in that. Angel statue uselessness. The angel statue was originally not able to be placed or sold, though it can be now. This caused a running joke that the angel statue serves no use. The developers seem to agree, with the merchant saying, "Angel statue, you say? I'm sorry, I'm not a junk dealer." Goblin Tinker is a scammer. A popular fan-made joke about the Goblin Tinker oftentimes gives many prefixes and buffs before you get what you actually wanted. Large bomb. The tutorial world features a bomb with a large prefix, the only non-weapon featuring a modifier legitimately. Overpowered zoologist. The zoologist has a powerful attack in addition to its knockback and can deal significant damage. Luminite tools. Hammers, axes, and chainsaws have their own texture for each pillar, but are unobtainable in the base game, although ham axes are obtainable now. Terraria Stadia controversy. Redigit cancelled Terraria for Stadia after his Google account got removed for violation of terms of service service despite not violating anything, which removed thousands of dollars. Stadia would continue with the plans to launch Terraria on its platforms against his ultimatum to not release it on Stadia. REK abbreviation. REK may stand for rares, enemies, and kills, though there is no confirmation of such. This is in reference to the REK 3000, which is an accessory that displays the number of monsters, kill counts, and rare creatures. Zenith has infinite range. The sword projectiles used by the Zenith have an infinite range since they are made to move as far as your cursor. This has been patched, of course, but this was viable in the start of 1.4. Planter box arenas. Planter boxes work as platforms, being able to fall through them, but they have several advantages to regular platforms. Lava passes through planter boxes instead of destroying them, and Skeletron prime bombs do not explode on planter boxes. Tombstones can also land on them, and torches can be placed on and inside of planter boxes. So go ahead, in your next playthrough, try to use planter boxes as arenas, because I know I'm sure gonna try to do this. Terraria and Dungeon Defenders 2. Dungeon Defenders 2 is a 3D tower defense game. Dungeon Defenders 2 has the most references in Terraria out of any company, with the majority of the old one's army being inspired from the tower defense game. To reciprocate, Dungeon Defenders 2 added the Dryad as a hero that used several weapons inspired off of Terraria. Several Terraria weapons were added, and the forest biome was added, featuring Demon Eyes and the Eye of Cthulhu. Terra Toilet. Seriously, this is what you use your broken hero sword for? A toilet? Whatever. You're lost, bro. Otherworldly music boxes. Otherworldly music boxes. Music boxes that play more orchestral music than the stereotypical Terraria music. This can be accessed by making a world with a special seed, going to the party girl, I think it is, and switching the music type to otherworldly. I only figured this out like literally yesterday before making this, and yeah, there's a whole different Terraria soundtrack that is inaccessible to everyday people. How did I not know this? Frozen Zombie rename. The Frozen Zombie was originally called the Eskimo Zombie, but was changed for very clear reasoning. NPC family tree. Several NPCs are said to be children or parents to others, with other non-NPCs sometimes getting into that also. Old gen boss icon. Every old generation boss had the same boss icon on the map, a skull-like design with teeth below and red eyes. This was likely used as a template to be changed in the future if they planned to further implement the bosses. Curved forges. Items like furnaces and hell forges until 1.2 had a curvy semicircle spray rather than having the spiky rectangular shape that we often see today. Locked Skyward chest. Skyward chests were once locked like golden chests and required dungeon keys to unlock. Lepus and Turkor the Ungrateful. These are 1.2 exclusive bosses that had their own attack patterns, strategies, and drops. Lepus was a bunny summoned with the suspicious looking egg dropped by corrupt and disaster bunnies during the Easter season. Turkor the Ungrateful was summoned with cursed stuffing that could be used at any time, although it is materials only found during Thanksgiving season. Terraria and Don't Starve Together. Terraria and Don't Starve Together have content crossovers with each other. This was in the 1.4.3 update, also called an eye for an eye. We are now on the 5th layer, which is the Beehive, and you would probably need several years of involvement within the Terraria community to understand these entries. Starting off, we have Terraria Chinese version. So similarly to many other Western generated games, a different version of Terraria exists in China. It includes different sprites for several entities, remade blocks, and painting textures. Chinese censorship is also involved, with the removal of blood and skeletons being the main examples. Bugged boss death messages. Some death messages were once done to state what they should not have. Examples of this include Moonlord's core has been defeated, and death messages for each of Skeletron Prime's hand. Lunatic Cultist treasure bag. In expert mode, bosses drop treasure bags, including their items, and the Lunatic Cultist is the only boss where this does not happen. However, a Lunatic Cultist treasure bag does exist in game, but it only drops silver and an ancient cultist mask. Dryad racism. The NPC she hates the most is the golfer, and he's black. Any further questions? I mean, the real reason she hates the golfer is for him profiting on items that sort of terraform Terraria, which goes against her ideals. Others also say that the Dryad hates the zoologist, while other players say that they're fine with each other. So that is also something to consider if you actually take this fact seriously. Another thing I've heard about this is that there are names for the Dryads such as Isis and Akbar, which some people dislike, and they would find that as racism. So yeah, Take that as you will. The Old One's army is useless. A popular opinion among Terrarians, they often use the difficulty as a major point, stating the challenge in the event to the point where the rewards are useless when it becomes easier. Blood Moon has a metaphor for periods. The female NPCs, excluding the party girl and princess, become aggressive with their text during a blood moon, which could be a metaphor. This can be backed by some females being more irritated during their menstrual cycles, and that both happening about once a month. Chlorophyte spreading. Chlorophyte is a rare ore existent after defeating the Wall of Flesh, but Terraria has a way to combat scarcity, that is chlorophyte spreading. Chlorophyte spreads to mud blocks next to it, but only seem to spread via mud. Chlorophyte does not have a fast spreading speed, and it can protect the jungle from things like evil spreading. The Wall of Flesh is the guardian of the world. The Wall of Flesh acts as the guardian of the world and acts as a master and core of it. This is quite literally Terraria lore, so this is canon. Terraria Collector's Edition. Terraria Collector's Edition was sold and distributed by Terraria partners and was available on desktop, PS3, and Xbox 360. It included a CD copy of Terraria, a case for the CD with Terraria graphics, a randomly colored pickaxe keychain with the Terraria logo on it, a poster of a Terraria landscape with the logo, 2 trading cards that act like Pokemon cards, and a carrot used to summon a bunny pet. Xbox 360 and PS3 editions included an exclusive item crafting poster, a pickaxe flash drive, and 3 stickers. Zombies are dead players and NPCs. Some have theorized that zombies are dead players and NPCs. They use the decline in zombie spawns with more NPCs around as their main theory, though this works also in other enemies and their hairstyles being similar to the players and the NPCs. Every update is final update. The final update has been stated for several updates in the past, which may indicate that 1.4 is not the end for Terraria. Pre 1.4 Wind. Wind was introduced before 1.4 for aesthetic purposes for things like rain and bubbles from the bubble machine. Infinite fishing lures. A fish line glitch that allowed the player to have several fishing lures, which opened a door to spawning several dew fish runs at once. Terrarian and Kraken are real. The Terrarian and Kraken yo-yos were released as real yo-yos in collaboration with One Drop Yo-yos. Ancient Vision. An enemy spawned during the Lunatic Cultist fight if the player attacks a duplicate cultist while the Phantasm Dragon is alive. It is popular for having a Cthulhu looking face and has the Mothron attack pattern. 1 in 80,000 Uzi. Although the Uzi has a 1 in 100 drop chance from any angler trappers now, the original drop rate when 1.2 released was 1 in 80,000, making it the rarest item for its time, though that was quickly fixed. Mud Ball. An unused texture which resembles the dirt ball seen when moving dirt with the dirt rod. Maybe mud was planned to be movable with the dirt rod, or there was a mud rod. Skull Bow. The Skull Bow is an unobtainable bow that fires like a regular bow and has its own stats. Biome key molds. Oh, this is such an OG one. Essentially, this was in the old generation versions of Terraria, and they were used to get biome keys for the dungeon and required mechanical boss souls and a temple key. 7 million plus DPS. The Zenith can reach up past 7 million damage per second in an optimized environment. Nimbus Rod cannot have Ruthless. The Nimbus Rod has a strange feature of not being able to have Ruthless as a prefix. Expert and Master content in Journey. There is a difficulty slider in Journey mode that can change the world's difficulty between Journey, Normal, Expert, and Master mode. These also include the contents of those difficulties, including Expert and Master mode content like relics and accessories. Terraria name origin. The official pronunciation of the popular title is Terraria, due to it being based off the word terrarium. Along with this, when Redigit and I think Blue were making their first playthrough of Terraria, Redigit actually corrected Blue when he said Terraria to saying that the game that he created was called Terraria. So the official pronunciation is Terraria. Holy Hand Grenade. The Holy Hand Grenade was a old gen bomb that caused double destruction compared to dynamite. It was the largest bomb in the game and deals the most damage out of any weapon. The sound effect when throwing the bomb also sings a chorus from Hallelujah. Golfer is Zoologist Brothers. Some quotes from Redigit reference the golfer being the older brother of the zoologist. Remove negative torch luck. Mismatched torches could cause negative torch luck value, which changed the final luck score. A Redigit post criticizing the mechanic caused backlash, so this was changed. Oktoberfest. A seasonal event from early September to the end of October. The clothier sold special items and pumpkins grew naturally on grass. Terraria and Edge of Space. Edge of Space is a 2D sandbox game similar to Terraria. Terraria added the SDMG from Edge of Space, and Edge of Space added a boss called Omegatron, named after Skeletron and Skeletron Prime, the Legend of Max, a webcomic based in Terraria that is still ongoing today. Duck entity capping. The flying form of a duck is a separate entity to its sitting, which makes it fill a space used for entities. If you have enough flying ducks, then the entity cap will be hit, causing no enemies to spawn while they are alive. However, the 1.4 update saw a patch that removed this from happening. Ancient set origins. The ancient armor set seems to resemble Anubis, a god for mummification in ancient Egypt. The helmet seems to have the shape of a long nose and ear shape alongside yellow colored armor, which resembles the color of Anubis's famous robe. Old floating islands. Floating islands once were larger with a locked golden chest and had no clouds, only dirt. This version of floating islands simply looks off compared to modern floating islands and shows how floating islands have developed over time. Typical King Slime on Pinky's Revenge, a popular 2011 YouTube video showing several players fighting numerous massive King Slimes and Pinkies. Wood broken with axes. Until Desktop 1.2, wood was broken with axes rather than pickaxes used today. So that refers to not trees, but the actual wood block. Life crystals broken with hammers. Similarly to the wood broken with axes submission next to this one, life crystals were destroyed with hammers rather than pickaxes used today. Rocket boots used mana. Rocket boots would originally stop your jump when it used up all of your mana, but this was switched to a specific time instead. Orb of Light. From desktop release to 1.2, the modern Shadow Orb was a Orb of Light, a orangish color. It was a buff requiring mana and had a duration. It was much brighter and slower, although those were patched over time long before the change. The Zenith is the worst weapon. The Zenith is objectively the worst weapon in the game due to how hard it is to craft and the fact that you have already beaten the game to obtain it. Upcoming content and archives. Terraria players can often find secrets Terraria developers include in the posts, like a post from Cynics where 1.4.4 R003 debug is featured at the bottom right of the image. We have now come to the jungle caverns. This is essentially something that only legendary Terraria players probably heard of, and publicly discussing this will get you pretty strange looks from other people around you. Starting off, we've got system.divide by zero exception. This is just a typical error message and there's really no depth behind it. Cthulhu concept. Terraria has many references to Cthulhu in itself, like the eye, the brain, and art has been made showcasing Cthulhu in Terraria, and many believe that Cthulhu could be integrated into Terraria one day. Wither spawning inspired by Minecraft. The Minecraft wither is naturally spawned with 3 soul sand blocks in a T-shape with the wither skeleton skulls on top. Jeb, a developer, stated that how the wither respawned was inspired by Terraria and with its summonable boss mechanic. Icemorn, Scythe, and Soul Scythe copyright infringement. The Icemorn, Scythe, and Soul Scythe were all items in reference to other entities unrelated to Terraria. The removal and unobtainability of these items leads people to believe that this was all caused due to fear or action of copyright infringement of their product. Old plumbers and heroes clothes. In old console and mobile versions, there were different sprites for the plumbers and heroes set, with the plumber set having alternative colors and the hero set being purple instead of green. Scrapped Chinese New Year event. An event for the Chinese New Year's was planned and largely added into Terraria as unobtainable items, including firecrackers and a mystical outfit made to look seemingly like a dragon. However, for an unknown reason, Chinese New Year was never added in any official matter into the game. Many theorize why this happened since the developers never stated much about it. Jungle Mimic. The Jungle Mimic is a variant of a mimic, but is now an unspawnable enemy. The only way they would spawn it in is using a special seed for celebrating Terraria's 10th anniversary. If killed in 1.4, the enemy would drop several strange items from the Terra Toilet and Golden Showers to Red's Potion and Stink Potion. Falling Moon. The concept that became the Moon Lord originated as bringing the moon to you alongside an alien invasion, which would become the Martian invasion and the Moon Lord. Not much has been said about this falling moon concept, but some say the moon would crash into the earth and would make your world inaccessible after, or maybe you would get to reset the moment before the event began.
If you found the secret in the video, drop I love minute 29 in the comments.
Party girl is transgender. The party girl teleports with the king statue rather than the queen statue and does not get irritated during a blood moon, which may be a period metaphor, though it remains a theory. The Order of the Guide. This is official Terraria canon lore, and the beginning of Terraria lore states that some of the stories of old were passed down by a group called the Order of the Guide, which the guide you spawn with is assumed to be involved. This also shows that guides are in a group and may have more complex lives than were assumed. You are the villain. The world wanted everything to have a chance and for all to be equal, but you grow past all. It's kind of a lame theory since you can say this about basically anything with some form of story or progression. Moon Lord is Cthulhu's ... Many have brought to confusion as to if the Moon Lord and Cthulhu are associated and how they are, if they are. It was theorized they were brothers. The lore states that they are the same entity, and it is believed that Cthulhu was weakened in conflict and then became the Moon Lord after going to the moon to stay safe. Even though lore states this, people still have their own headcanon about this. Super Mario Bros. X, a Mario game developed by Redigit, who made to customize Mario levels. Demolitionist is a dwarf. The Demolitionist holds a lot of traits to dwarfs, being shorter than average, selling and using explosives that are often used in the underground, and he is also referred to as a dwarf in the bestiary. Along with this, he can also sometimes go by famous dwarf names from media. Player character sprites based on Final Fantasy IV sprites. Old player sprites resemble those of Final Fantasy IV characters. Hard mode dungeon enemies are fallen heroes. There are several skeleton enemies that hold several weapons like mages, snipers, and paladins. Maybe these are fallen heroes that try to be exactly what we are. Uramir ARG, an ARG that Uramir created, which led to a YouTube video. 5 angel statue IDs. The angel statue was often used to replace, remove items and their IDs, which explains how angel statues have 5 different IDs. White cultists. Cultists appear blue in game, but there is a white variant in the files that is not used, and it is assumed that the game world would randomly select between blue and white. Traveling merchant is Asian. The traveling merchant sells many Asian items, often from China. Wraiths are dead NPCs. The Wraith has a collector's edition card that states that Wraiths are made of those that die because of the Eater of Worlds. Nanana's buried treasure. The anime featured a character playing Terraria. This is actually funny, bro. Actually, within the anime, the character is playing Terraria. Shiny black slab. An item that summoned a pet android, which has the same look as the popular character used by Android, which was exclusive to Android versions of Terraria. Tim manifests when needed. When wearing any gem robe, Tim has a higher chance to spawn since he drops his wizard hat, but not his robe. The channel log also states that Tim comes when a player need a hat. Santa Claus alternate names. Santa Claus only has the name Santa Claus, although this makes him Santa Claus the Santa Claus. Some theorize that they had random names originally like every other NPC. Boring bow. This is a unimplemented bow with no stats or behavior. Knight's Edge toy inaccuracy. The toy released for the Knight's Edge looks generally different to the actual in-game Knight's Edge. Otherworld was cancelled intentionally. Some hypothesize that Terraria Otherworld was cancelled intentionally to keep sales up for Terraria. Vertigo challenge. As far as the creator of this iceberg knows, the Vertigo challenge is playing Terraria upside down with the gravitation effect for the entire game. Cthulhu Ocean 1101 2011.jpg. An old image featuring Cthulhu in the ocean. This certainly did not happen in Terraria, but a lot of people have great interest in the photo. Maybe this could happen. Who knows? Old gen pets dealing damage. Several pets in the old generation version of Terraria dealt damage to enemies, although they did not follow them. Terraria 2. A planned sequel for Terraria. Little is known about this game since it was announced in 2012 with no updates or releases. Mysterious package. An unobtainable summon which was supposed to summon a drone that would drop a box every few minutes. This was likely intended to be available for people who bought Terraria on Amazon. Terraria Pixel Piracy. Pixel Piracy was a 2D real-time strategy game published by Relogic. Terraria included the Falcon Blade, pirate minions, ginger beard, a painting, a sail, and a sail from Pixel Piracy. And they added the Star Fury in Pixel Piracy. Pre-hard mode Hallow. Hallow can exist in pre-hard mode, although you have to previously complete hard mode somewhere else and get items like the Contaminator. If Hallow exists pre-hard mode, it will spread slower than in hard mode. Merchant can predict the Eye of Cthulhu. The merchant can sometimes say, "I feel an evil presence watching me," which only shows up when the requirements to fight the Eye of Cthulhu are met. 1.2 billion seeds. It is estimated that there are 1.2 billion different seeds that could be inputted in Terraria. To set this number into example, if all Terraria copies, 35 million, were used and each generated different seeds to each other, all copies would need 3,428 worlds to get all of them. Clown Bomb Destruction. The Clown Bomb once destroyed tiles, causing massive destruction during Blood Moon that was almost entirely unavoidable. This would last between 1.1 and 1.2. Corruptor Corruption Spreading. The vile spit projectile from corruptors would corrupt the tile they hit, causing a great amount of damage as the corruption quickly moved out of control. Non/pre-T-Modloader mods. Although T-Modloader holds a modern monopoly on Terraria modding, several mods existed before T-Modloader alongside other mods. It works similar to CurseForge with Minecraft. Eerie in Dungeon, Corruption, and Underworld. The Dungeon, Corruption, and Underworld played the eerie music file in the background used in the Meteorite biome today. It was likely removed due to it being used too often in several locations. Red's Wings No Clip. Very early in 1.3, Red's Wings could cause the player to move through blocks or no clip. This was swiftly removed, however. Orange Corruption Sky. In the earliest versions of Terraria, as seen in the trailer of the game, the sky of the corruption was orange. It is unknown why, but it was likely used as a placeholder for the background. Purple Spelunker or Effect. Very early versions of the Spelunker potion showed a purple tint to locate ores rather than the yellow tint used today. Vortex is a black hole. Vortex is whirling and spinning mass like a whirlpool. Spinning black holes are called gravitational vortexes. The vortex pillar spawns what are assumed to be portals that summon alien hornets. This could be seen as them being black holes. Dimensions of the world barrier. By shooting projectiles at the barrier, the sound of it hitting a block happens, but oddly not with rockets. Sometimes projectiles make no noise in general as well. So what is the barrier? Japanese exclusive content. Several Terraria vanity sets are included in the Japanese versions of Terraria. We are now on the Lizard Temple. This is only really accessible to people who have read almost everything and understood as much headcanon as they could for several years. This is where we get into a lot of Terraria canon lore that makes absolutely no sense as a normal Terraria player. So let's get on to it. Redigit removed Okram. Okram was originally made like a final boss in early versions of Terraria. However, as 1.3 rolled in on console and mobile, developers including Redigit decided to remove him, seeing him as unengaging and not fitting with the rest of the game. Cultists plotted Cthulhu's return, mechanic kidnapping. This is official Terraria lore, and the cultist in the dungeon based in lore captured the mechanic and plotted the end of the world. The mechanic was forced to constructing the parts of Cthulhu, whom would destroy the earth, making mechanical organs of Cthulhu and only requiring the brain to finalize the process. Dread Nautilus was intended to be a boss. Lots of mystery surrounds the Dread Nautilus and its status. It has a boss-like spawn requiring you to fish during a blood moon and has similar stats to bosses around it. Drops banners rather than trophies, making it a standard enemy, but it's considered to be a mini boss in the 1.4 changelog. This is a debunked theory. Cultists and Golem wanted to contain the Moonlord. The cultists chant to the Moonlord in an attempt to keep him away from the world, alongside the lunatic cultist who acts like the Moonlord's servant. After killing him, the Moonlord approaches the world. The Golem also protects the world by containing those godly entities more, not making the cultist necessary. Terraria's broken code and file structure. There isn't really much to this except for the fact that some people who have decompiled Terraria have said that the code is very messy and is very unnecessary. I'm not a big programmer, so I'll just take people's word for it. The corruption reanimates dead humans. The lore states that the corruption has consumed worlds in the past and is often treated like a god, with some making human sacrifices to the cancer. That is the corruption, which became blinded and could not think freely. This cancer is constructed by sins that the world faces. Crimson is a hive mind, grown and made by the minds of creatures that reside on the world. The Crimson holds now awareness, it only spreads and makes hateful creatures to punish the sinners by taking their world away. It will then destroy the world after it restores balance to it. This is also official lore within Terraria. The mechanic constructed the mechanical bosses. The mechanic made mechanical contraptions for the cultists for Cthulhu's revival. With her making all but the brain to complete the mechanical Cthulhu abomination, the mechanical bosses are not only made with metals but seem to be inspired by organs, with the twins being a pair of eyes, Skeletron Prime being a four-handed skull, and the destroyer being assumed as the spine. Eye/brain of Cthulhu and Skeletron are Cthulhu's body parts, old man cultist compliance. This is lore as well, and the Great War of Cthulhu saw the Dryad race dismember the eyes, brain, and skull of Cthulhu, which aligns with the Eye of Cthulhu, the Brain of Cthulhu, and Skeletron. The Eye of Cthulhu and Brain of Cthulhu are apparent in their name, but Skeletron was a greater story. The old man who stands at the dungeon can have his evil released at night, seeming to be a curse on him, which spawns Skeletron. Skeletron was a curse placed onto him by the cultist to comply, further proving by him begging for you to end his curse when you get strong enough, even though it will cause his death to be permanent. Terraria Special Edition. Terraria Special Edition was distributed by 505 Games for the Xbox One and PS4. The Special Edition includes 3 character stickers of the Wizard, the Dryad, and the Goblin Tinkerer, a sew-on wizard patch, and an exclusive heroic art chart. Alongside the CD and the case with its own custom design, this was less popular due to being overshadowed by collector's editions, however. Terraria 2 is in development. Terraria 2 had not much stated about it, but it has not been declared cancelled. Redigit mentioned working on Terraria 2 after Terraria Otherworld was complete, but Terraria Otherworld was cancelled in 2018, so is it being worked on? Nobody really knows. Golem is mud. The golem is based on Jewish folklore, a being made of clay and mud made to protect townspeople, which could explain why the golem is based in a populated temple. Queen Bee beta sprite. The Queen Bee had a largely different beta sprite that more resembles the hornet enemy than the actual sprite used today. All glowing mushrooms are children. The truffle has a quote that states that we steal his children when talking about glowing mushrooms. This means that he loves glowing mushrooms just for us to take them for our own need. Be safe, Terraria needs you. A Dryad quote. It holds interest due to the fact that it refers to Terraria itself, not the world name, unlike every other quote. Would that mean that the Dryad is sentient? Exploding snowman. The game files features a snowman with dynamite attached to the top of his head. It seems to have been considered due to it having a random sprite change. It is assumed it would explode when near, maybe destroying tiles since it has dynamite on its head. Mick Money Pants. An unspawnable NPC during the Chinese New Year event. It only has one quote and has a help button that would often crash the game. Moon smiley.png. A 10th moon style that makes the moon look like a smiley face, used for the seed 05162020. Heart crystal metal detector functionality. Heart crystals can be detected with the metal detector. Some theorize that hearts are actually real with iron in them. Redigit stage the Super Mario Bros. X, C, and D. I'm pretty sure this is talking about the C's and desist that Nintendo sent to Redigit for Super Mario Bros. X. This is likely false, however, since Nintendo often cracks down on those that use their characters, especially their Super Jumpman mascot. This could be true. Terraria is based in a terrarium. This is the headcanon of the guy who created the iceberg, and he says that Terraria is created. Terraria is centered in a massive terrarium-like structure, and that is why the name is chosen and why the world is finite. Guide is Ninja's brother. According to Redigit, the Guide is the brother of the ninja inside of King Slime. Red's Wings Infinite Flight. If the player managed to obtain Red's Wings before 1.3, they would grant infinite flight and faster movement than any other wings in game. Dungeon was once a city. This is official Terraria lore, and the dungeon was once a living and thriving city until an unknown curse caused everyone to live after death, becoming mindless as their minds rot. Severed Hand. An enemy planned for the solar eclipse, but it was never used, assumed to be because it was very hard to see. Terraria and Worms 3. Worms 3 was a mobile game that had several sprites of Terraria armor. In return, Terraria added 2 pets, a tombstone sprite, and the legendary Holy Hand Grenade. Throwing Pillar. Some speculate that there was intended or planned to be a 5th lunar pillar for the throwing class, but was never implemented. Redigit headcanon. Redigit sometimes states things that do not make much sense, like their canon, resulting in players stating that it is simply Redigit's own headcanon. Mud physics. Mud once behaved like sand today. Fall falling without support underneath. Seedler fishing. In early versions of 1.3, the Seedler, a Plantera drop, could be fished in the jungle at any time. This would cause insane advantages, which led the feature to be swiftly removed. Cyborg is non-binary. The Cyborg is a robot, which means it cannot have a gender. Paper Bag VG. The first non-developer to make a Terraria Let's Play series, allegedly. Merchant is a father. In the painting, father of someone, a person is depicted, assumed as the merchant, and this could lead to theories about the merchant being a father. Terraria lore is misleading or false. Some believe that the Terraria official lore from Relogic was made to mislead others from figuring out the real lore, with some finding the lore to make no sense. Pre-hard mode crystal shards. On mobile, crystal shards could be obtained pre-hard mode via arc demons until their removal during 1.3. Burning skull. Cursed skulls for a short period were known as burning skulls. They seem to have the old skull sprite with fire trailing behind. Hero fungi infection. Hero, which is a popular Terraria YouTuber, had stated in the past that he had suffered from an undiagnosed fungal infection of the brain causing memory loss, explained in a rant. The creator of this iceberg writes, "Note, I've heard controversy surrounding whether this is factual or not, so this is just speculation, but nobody really knows." Non-explodable Ebonstone. Ebonstone until 1.1 was not destroyable via explosions, bombs, and dynamite. Pre-hard mode Drac. Drax, the powerful drill, was originally obtained via shadow chests in the underworld on mobile until the Hallowed Bars recipe was implemented. Alpha Kip Codex. A developer for the Ancients Awaken mod, Alpha Kip had multiple personality disorder, which caused major troubles in the Ancients Awaken community. The Alpha Kip Codex, a Googled document with more than 80 pages, shows 2020 screenshots associated with this. The creator of the iceberg also adds, "Note, I am not entirely aware of this, and this may be surface level knowledge about the situation. Apologies if I get things wrong or say incorrect things." Big boned, short bones. Before 1.2, two skeleton sprites were used called Big Boned and Short Bones. Jeremy Blue Guerte. The original co-owner of Terraria also worked on Super Mario Bros. X. He worked on Terraria from January to September of 2011, but left and is no longer associated with Relogic. Blood Nautilus. There are personally no notes that I see within the iceberg for this, but what I'm guessing is that this is just a rename for the Dread Nautilus boss. Unused trap chests. These are several unused trap chests in the game files, and they share the same tile ID. Deerclops leg. In the 1.4.3 update, along with Deerclops, an unused Deerclops leg NPC was also introduced. It has the NPC ID of 669, and it seems to be an earlier version of the Deerclops leg. We now enter the deep caverns, where the world around you is in 2D and you have more dedication to Terraria than in your real life if you know these facts. Fire Flower in Underworld 3DS. On the 3DS, in the bottom right corner of the map, a fire flower texture is visible. Terraria worlds are sentient. Every Terraria world was made sentient by the gods of Terraria and can feel the thoughts of all creatures that reside on it. The world is sentient to keep the world balanced and fair for all creatures, committing to tremendous measures like spreading the world evil if one comes to power. You grow as the strongest creature alive, and all against the wishes of the world. This is official Terraria lore. Another part of Terraria lore is that the Hallowed is the extreme of purity and spreads to combat the infection of powerful creatures and the evils of corruption and crimson. This is performed by killing all that stand in its way, that do not comply no matter their alignment. The last piece of lore on this part of the iceberg is the Great War of Cthulhu. Cthulhu wanted to rule the world, and none could stop their godly power. However, the ancient Dryad race unfiled against becoming the last hope the world had. While also being connected to the planet, unlike any other creature or race, Cthulhu was not killed but severely damaged, with the Dryads ripping out their eyes, parts of skeleton, and parts of the brain, which caused Cthulhu to retreat to the dark side of the moon, where they thrive today. Only one Dryad remains after their battle, however. Lunar pillars are illusions. The lunar pillars are big pillars spawn post-lunatic cultists. These pillars spawn their own enemies and give fragments. The pillars have defeat messages speaking about how your mind goes numb and you can hear voices, which may imply the lunatic cultists made them as an illusion to see how mentally strong you are. Maybe destroying both releases you from his illusion. Traveling merchant having 11 items at once. In expert mode, there is a 0.001% chance that the traveling merchant sells 11 items at a single time. Poisonous spore. An An enemy in the game code that only has its banner. None 2. An unused mob having a sprite similar to the Wandering Eye enemy. Mini Flower Invader. An unused enemy with the game texture as projectile 539 used by flow invaders, likely considered as an enemy in its own right. Every seed is based on the person. A meta joke in reference to every copy of Super Mario 64 is personalized. Roar_2.xnb. An unused sound effect that sounds like a scream. This sound is similar to the Ravager sound effect from the Calamity mod, and some say it sounds like a death whistle. Obsessed 4chan player 5,000 characters. A post in the video game board of 4chan had a Terraria player post that they had a world with a history of over 3,500 characters, races and factions, financial systems, wars, and more. Zombie AI is 3,000 line of code. Yep, that simplistic AI used by zombies has 3,000 lines of code. Unbelievable. Dazed. An unused debuff that affects the spread and jump height of the player. Hellish based on webcomic. The Hellish is based on the webcomic The Legend of Max. Unobtainable achievements. There are several achievements which are unobtainable. PC currently has 4. Pumpkin Smasher, Independence Day, Behind the Mask, and Hex Education. All old gen achievements are also technically unobtainable. Phasic Wasp Ejector, an unimplemented item that holds a single ID and sprite alongside a sprite of a Phasic Wasp disc assumed to go with it. Cthulhu is Nyarlathotep. Nyarlathotep is a Lovecraftian elder god who is a tall dark man. They gain followers that lose their awareness around them, similarly to how the corruption blinds and controls several creatures. The Lamentation of the Moonlord, a massive storyline similar to Terraria's lore, albeit significantly in depth. Terraria was a Super Mario Bros. Mod. Terraria was started only 3 months before the lawsuit against Redigit took place from Nintendo against Super Mario Bros. X, and seemingly little was known about Terraria then. Because of this, some think that Terraria was originally a Super Mario mod, but became Terraria due to a lawsuit. Player name was slain. Before the standard "you were slain" message once included the player name on screen instead of the simple "you." Eye of Cthulhu dropping life crystals. From release 1.0.0, the Eye of Cthulhu would drop life crystals on death. Extra Bone Serpent drops. Until 1.0.6, the Bone Serpent dropped the Flame Lash and Sun Fury before being removed into the Shadow Chest. Life crystals and normal pots in the Underworld. In early versions of Terraria, the Underground featured normal pots and heart crystals rather than specifically designed Underworld pots and no life crystals. Hornets were going to be Mantid Fly. There's several sprites of the Hornets being Mantid Fly in shape, having legs while having a standard B design. Nothing is known if this is ever actually going to be implemented. Locked chest opening animation. Locked chests had their own custom opening animation, which was not used for obvious reasons. Pre-release sprites. In the Terraria pre-release version, several sprites were made for its time. Lava knockback. For a very short time, Terraria had a knockback be given to players who fall in lava. Green restoration potions. Restoration potions were for a short period stored with a green liquid rather than a purple and pink liquid used later. Hallowed seeds from demon altars. A 1.1 pre-release video showed that hallowed seeds were being dropped from broken demon altars. I believe that this was due to every destroyed block needing a drop-in code, so hallowed seeds were used as a placeholder. Item name fake_new chest and item name.fake_new chest 2. There's 2 unobtainable trap chests within the game files. They could only be obtained through inventory editing and has some weird effects to the player, such as freezing the player and removing all vanity accessories. Unused beach type grass. There's an unused beach type grass in the game file. Split shot core. Unused Empress of Light projectile. When spawned, they will split into multiple projectiles. Unused bestiary filters. There are 5 unused Terraria bestiary filters, and those are Oasis, Blizzard, Hard Mode, Slime Rain, and Item Spawn. We are now on to the second last entry, part of the iceberg, which is the Hellish caverns. And if you know these, Redigit would be concerned by your dedication. Starting off, we have leaked Terraria beta version / early release. Terraria had a past beta version leaked to the public before release. This infuriated its creators and was left low-key as far as I know. Apparently there is a version that is still playable, but nobody can really find that as of now. DD2 attacker test. An unused enemy that was likely used by developers to test the old one's army event. Noise.png. An image of colored static likely used for debugging purposes. Impending doom screen shake meta. The screen shake during the tense moments of impending doom approaching seemed to fade in and out at a constant rate, like you're raising heart rate during the moment. What happened to Urimir? Some speculate about the whereabouts of Urimir after his disappearance from the internet. Some think he died. Others say that he was burnt out from the internet. Nobody is really certain since Euromir has been silent, and as of this time he left like 3 or 4 years ago. Missing world seeds. Worlds that use secret seeds are generated using a different random seed. That means that the actual world for those seeds are likely impossible to generate. Vulcan repeater team killing. The Vulcan repeater, a Okram drop, had a special Vulcan arrow which explodes on impact, attacking everything including players. This would result in players being easily killed because of the Vulcan repeater. Most items can be unobtainable. At least in theory, any item can be unobtainable in the Terraria world if it is built a certain way. Who knows, maybe a seed without dirt exists somewhere. Randomly generated special seeds. Remember the 120 billion seeds? Hypothetically, that means there is a bit, albeit incredibly small chance, that one of the hard-coded special seeds are gotten randomly. These may be hard-coded to not happen since they're special, but can technically happen assuming pure random. Old skeleton sprite. The sprite of the skeleton has not been changed often, but it was a weird change when it did. Originally, the skeleton had no cover-up for the front of his body, showing his bones, and was a lot skinny. There is also a sprite of a one-legged skeleton in red with a gold-colored zipper or inside area. Aaron C141 sprite sheet. In 2013, Relogic hired a new spriter, Aaron C141, and there was a sprite sheet that he had developed that spoiled 1.2 items, but some never made it into the game. You wake up from a strange dream. This is an unused string of text found in the game's unused files, supposedly from a scrapped event. Unused Deadly Sphere 4. There is an unused Deadly Sphere enemy in the games file. We are now on the final part of the iceberg, which is the underworld, and you have probably never heard these ever. Other Guardians. Terraria releases the spirits of light and dark after the Wall of Flesh is defeated, but does not state the Wall of Flesh directly, stating that each world has a guardian, implying that there are other guardians in other worlds that contain the spirits in other worlds. All paintings combine. The theory states that all paintings combine into a single massive image, although nobody has found the combination if there even is one. wxham_frame5.wxb. This is what the creator saw on 2 different icebergs, and literally nothing can be found about it. Nothing on Reddit, nothing on YouTube, nothing on Google. There's maybe like 3 links on Google that I tried to go through, and it was just some guy speaking about some like sound files, and there was nothing really much to it. But yeah, if you guys could figure out what it is and put it down in the description down below, I will ping your comment 100%. And the last one, Boio ARG.
Yes, no, real way,